I'll tell you when it funds. Thank you for coming. We'll go ahead and call to order the Planning Commission meeting for tonight. Thanks for coming. We have 6 members of the commission present. Commissioner Badone is excused for the evening. We'll go ahead and get started with our consent calendar. Talk about the minutes from our meeting on August 6th. Any comments or thoughts, Commissioner Luthi?
Move to approve them.
Commissioner England?
I second that.
We have a motion from Commissioner Luthi, a second by Commissioner England. Any discussion to the motion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are unanimous. We'll move on to our first public hearing. The first item on the agenda tonight is PX Palace at 7879 South, 1530 West, Unit 300. Conditional use permit for a reception center in a CCC zone. Jesus Pedroza is the applicant. Are you here, sir? Yes, sir. Come on forward. The floor is yours.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jesus Pedroza, and I'm the owner of the Golden Imperial. The reception hall is next to it. I've been in there for 10 years. What we do is receptions, weddings, quinceañeras, and I've been working, I used to work with Sergeant Bells. Now he's the big boss of the police department of West Jordan. Now we're working with the sergeant that's in charge right now for the security of these events. But we would like to expand our business with another name of PX Palace. That way the people don't get confused and go to the right room. And that's all I can say for right now.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay. We'll give you some time after the public hearing if you need it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll hand this over to the staff. Mr. Forsyth.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. So just to provide a little bit of background, so the Golden Imperial, which was the original area, was approved for a conditional use permit back in 2015, and so this is essentially an expansion of that original area, as you can see on the site plan. So this will essentially double the amount of floor area that they have, and because that's such a large increase, that has to go through a new conditional use permit, so that's why we're reviewing this tonight. So the The reception center is located in the CC-C zone, which is a city center zone, which is envisioned as the downtown area of West Jordan. So right now, the area is not really conducive to a downtown, as most of the surrounding uses are legal non-conforming. So to the east, you have an outdoor storage yard, to the east and to the south. To the west, there's a Hertz rental car agency, and then to the north is a restaurant, which is a former Sizzler building. So as you can see from the map here, there's not any residential in the area. In fact, the nearest home is located about 485 feet away on the other side of 7800 South, so we don't anticipate that to be affected at all by the business. Some of the site conditions, they've got one light pole on the property, and then 3 other light poles on other parcels. Those are within about 500 feet of the building, so they should provide decent lighting for the parking. As far as the parking goes, they're required to have 146 parking spaces, which is quite a bit. So they have 68 parking spaces on their parcel right now, but this parking lot is ultimately a shared, was designed as a shared parking lot. So the remaining 99 spaces are available within 500 feet of the building, so those can be used as needed. When staff was reviewing this, we found a few problems and a couple violations that'll need to be addressed, and those are being addressed through the conditions of approval. So the first one, we looked at some of the changes that have happened to the building. As you can see on the east elevation, there's a few columns and kind of a railing there. We talked to the building official about that, and he couldn't find record of any building permits that have been pulled for that. So that's going to need to be addressed. So there is a condition of approval requiring a building permit for those improvements. So the second issue that we found was the banners on the building. Those have been up for quite some time. Per city code and city policy, we don't allow banners to be used as permanent signage. We require all signage to be high quality, durable materials like channel letters or aluminum plating or something similar to that. So again, the owner will need to get a building permit for those and replace those with something that complies with city code. And the third issue that we noticed was, this is more of a minor thing, but the landscaping, the trees, the plants, those are all in good condition. We just noticed there's no mulch in those planter beds, so we just need to make sure that those are getting mulched and to keep the weeds down and maintain the aesthetics of the site. So other potential problems that could happen, those have also been addressed in the conditions of approval. So some of those deal with pedestrian safety, particularly on during events in which there's a lot of parking, a lot of traffic. So we want to make sure that the security guards are out there guiding pedestrians through that area, making sure they're kept safe. So that's been included in the conditions of approval. Other concerns would be alcohol consumption. The business doesn't provide alcohol or cater it, but they do allow patrons to bring their own. So that will need to be monitored by the security personnel to make sure there's no underage drinking, no drunk driving, no drinking in the parking lot, things like that. So as long as the business owner can agree to these conditions of approval and make sure that they meet them, staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions for staff? Commissioner Green.
Section 3 on the general information and analysis near the bottom of that paragraph, it says alcohol will not be catered, but patrons are permitted to bring their own alcoholic beverages. Is that consistent with state law? Is that okay under state law? Because I know in a lot of places, the reception centers, I'm renting one out Thursday night, you have to hire their bartender, not a, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, that's consistent with state law.
Sounds like you need to move your reception.
There's not gonna be alcohol anyway, so what do I care?
Commissioner Thomas.
Yeah, on the parking, where there's not enough parking, except for the shared parking, if that area gets developed and the parking goes away, would they have to reapply for that conditional use?
Well, we would, if there's a shared parking arrangement under the new development plan, we would probably take a look at that at the time of redevelopment.
They wouldn't
So
have to
that would-
reapply?
No, the conditional use permit runs with the land, so.
Any other questions? All right, this item is noticed as a public hearing item, so if you have anything you want to say or share with us about this particular item, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring this back to the Planning Commission for discussion or possible motion. Commissioner Thomas.
I'll make a motion if nobody has any statements, okay. Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report, and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit for PX Palace located at 7879 South, 1530 West, Unit 300 in a CC-C zone, subject to the conditions of approval listed on page 2 of this report.
Thank you. Commissioner Luthi.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Thomas and a second by Commissioner Luthi. Any discussion to this motion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to our next item here. This is item number 3 for the On Point School of Ballet, 7504 Centerview Way, a preliminary and final site plan conditional use permit for personal instruction services in a PO zone. And it looks like we've got Rachel Ellis, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Excellent, welcome.
I'm just giving her some instructions. Slices forward, pointers.
She's not used to being taught, she's used to doing the teaching, Larry, come on.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Rachel Ellis. I am the owner of On Point School of Ballet. We currently have 250 students and have outgrown our current studio. We need to expand to a new location, and we have designed a studio that will be able to accommodate over 600 students. Oops. Ah, it's skipping one. There we go. Okay. We are purchasing land in Jordan Landing where parents will be able to drop off their dancers for ballet classes, and then they will have the opportunity to do some shopping. This will potentially increase revenue in the surrounding shopping centers. We hope to draw more clients to the ballet studio and also the dancewear boutique by having our logo visible from Jordan Landing Boulevard and also Centerview Drive. Our studio will be a complementary addition to the area and will result in increased sales and clientele for the surrounding businesses, restaurants, banks, and retail stores. I anticipate that parents will notice the nearby businesses and will be interested in the ease of doing business while their other dancers are in ballet classes. I expect this sharing of clientele to be mutually beneficial. Our architectural plans include 3 large studios, an elegant lobby, a ballet boutique for selling dancewear, an office, restrooms, and a large interior storage room for costumes. We will be soundproofing each individual studio to keep the sound under control within the building, so sound outside of the building would not be a problem. And besides that, it's classical music. It's soft and pretty. Okay. We have included a semicircular drive in our plans with a portico for student drop-off during inclement weather. And we made it high enough for a fire truck. The parking lot is more than adequate since most parents will be dropping their dancers off and leaving to patronize the surrounding businesses. We will stagger arrival and pickup times between the 3 studios to prevent any traffic congestion. Our main business hours will be Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., which is actually after most of the offices nearby have closed, with only 1 hour overlapping. We plan on having a few classes for preschool and kindergarten age children during the day. The stucco exterior and design elements are attractive on all sides. The lighting will be adequate and will include down lights under the eaves and portico, as well as 2 light poles. With the safety of our students a primary concern, we have included sidewalks and numerous crosswalks. Our design for the signage and the exterior of the building is beautiful and complementary to the design of the surrounding buildings. Our interior design elements will include elegant crown molding, hardwood oak floors, and full-length drapery similar to our current design, with chandeliers in each studio and also in the lobby and the boutique that will be visible through the windows. This is our current studio. We have set ourselves apart from other local studios with our elegant decor, classical ballet technique, and professional ballet performances. An art form as beautiful as ballet deserves an equally elegant environment. We believe that elegance inspires excellence, and we've noticed a definitive difference in our dancers and also the clientele that we attract. Did I skip one? Oh, one's missing. Oh well. This side of the valley does not currently have a dancewear store, and with numerous dance studios in West Jordan, South Jordan, Harriman, and other surrounding cities, there is a great need for a dance store on this side of the valley. This will bring additional business and sales revenue to Jordan Landing, since people tend to cluster shop. When they come here to our boutique to purchase dancewear, they will most likely also shop in other Jordan Landing stores for convenience. Our dancewear boutique will have standard hours of operation from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays and Saturdays. Our studio and boutique will remain closed on Sundays. And then this slide, our studio is unique because we are the only studio in West Jordan specializing exclusively in classical ballet with full-length story ballet performances. We do not participate in dance competitions. We serve a special niche of conservative parents who do not want to be in competitive dance and want their dancers to be trained only in ballet. There's the boutique one. They got out of order. So our boutique, we're looking at having the white decor. Our boys ballet program is unparalleled by anyone on the west side of the valley. We have 30 boys and men with 4 levels of ballet classes that are exclusively for boys and men. We also have 3 levels of pas de deux classes, which is unheard of in any studio in the valley other than Ballet West Academy. And these are some pictures from some of our ballet performances. Our annual ballet performances are held in Jordan School District High School auditoriums annually in June. We have performed many classical full-length ballets, including Swan Lake, Coppelia, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, and also an original ballet that I created. Our productions feature beautiful sets and costumes, and our performances impress our audiences more every year. We plan to add the Nutcracker to our repertoire once we are settled into our new location. We would love to create notoriety for West Jordan, similar to Mountain West Ballet's Nutcracker Performances in Sandy. We're excited about this expansion and the opportunity to increase our visibility and standing in the community of West Jordan. Thank you for your time and your support. And do you have any questions?
She's gonna do my job for me. Thank you for your presentation. We'll reserve some time if there's any questions for you at the end. I'll get back to this. I think you got this one, right, Mr. Gardner?
Yeah, I don't think the applicant covered this very well. I think that it was a very thorough explanation on what she wants to do, and I think it's
I
a
agree.
good addition.
Commissioner Green.
Now I'm gonna be the fly in the ointment, I'm sure. PO zone, under permitted uses of a PO zone, I don't see any retail sales permitted. How do we address, and it's not that I'm fundamentally opposed with the dancewear stuff, but what my question, Larry, is how do we address that since it's not permitted in the PO zone?
Maybe I can clarify that a little bit for you. The square footage of the boutique itself will be well under the 10% of the total building, which allows, from what I understand, the city to be able to authorize this. And we are looking for use in the PO zone for the ballet studio itself as well as the boutique.
Will you just really quickly state your name, just so we have it for the record?
Mark Ellis.
Thank you. Commissioner Green, go ahead.
So where would I find that in city code?
I'll reference that and send it to you in an email. So I'm not concerned with the retail component in a professional office. So it'd be similar to what the hotels that we allow in a professional office. Each one of them have some sort of retail sales in their lobby and that type of thing. So it's an incidental use. So.
I just,
Most of the sales would be to our own
I get
students.
that. I'm just wanting to make sure that we're in compliance with the ordinance, and I don't see it anywhere.
Well, it looks like Mr. Langford's researching. Can we move on and we'll come back to you in a second? Commissioner Luthi.
Yeah, so I sat in the DRC meeting and I loved this, by the way. I'm totally on. One of the things that was discussed was this ADA parking and the sidewalk that goes to, I think you're close. The discussion we had is that it extend through here rather than routing it through your ADA stalls and then behind stalls. So I would really like to see that sidewalk continue over and have it connect right through here. It's frowned upon in the ADA accessibility world to have the walkway go behind the stalls anyways. It is much more preferred that they walk in front. So this would serve both things to just go right through here. I mean, these two trees will have to be moved somewhere else, and then eliminate people walking behind the cars as your main route.
I thought we had eliminated that and did it the way you did, had recommended. I'm failing to see where they actually accomplished that now. Dave, it was on one of our plans, I'm just.
Yeah, what you're looking at here may not be the most up to date, because I do know they did make a change to that sidewalk.
Wonderful. That was my only comment, is that doesn't seem like that's
The only
safest
reason you see
option.
it curved at the beginning of the main front is because of different items they had to go around.
That doesn't scare me at all. It's just that it should be coming out of here so that it's an actual walkway rather than
Yes.
behind cars in a striping area.
And if you look at it, I actually think it might be showing it, but it's kind of hidden by the tree and the landscaping. If you look closely,
So it's showing that the sidewalk ends here on the packet that I have.
does it show that it ends there? Because I'm looking
It
at it
does.
thinking it continued, okay.
Not the one that I'm looking at. It's clearly a different material past that stall. But I like I said, I would eliminate any striping behind these stalls and just have these ADA come straight to the front and then over right through there.
It was supposed to have been done.
Okay,
so.
okay, yep, that's my only comment.
Any other questions for staff? come back to yours if they find an answer. All right, we're gonna go ahead and open the public hearing on this if you wanna go and have a seat. If anybody has anything they'd like to share or with us about this particular item, please come on forward. Yeah. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing for this item and bring this back to the planning commission. And while we're waiting for them to look that up, is there anything else anybody wants to bring up? We're just waiting on you. When you're ready, yep,
Sorry about
don't
that.
fake the answer just because we're waiting on you.
Well, I'll continue to look, but what Mr. Murray and I have found thus far in the definitions section of Title 13, under the definition of office, it says a building, room, or department where executive management, administrative, or professional services are provided, except medical services, excluding the sale of merchandise, except as incidental to the principal use. Now, I don't know what the definition of incidental is, or where this 10% is coming from. There's probably more clarification, but I'll continue to look, but that's what I found so far.
Well, that's a determination I made because sales of dancewear is completely incidental to a ballet studio. She's not selling Coca-Cola, salted nut bars, or beef jerky in there. She's selling dancewear, which is incidental. It's similar to a storage facility selling boxes and strapping tape and that type of thing. And so there is that tiny bit of flexibility, and it is small enough that the only reason anybody would go there is if they were involved in some type of dance program. And so I think that I don't think that the ordinance is being violated at all in this point. So I think that incidental use will actually enhance the business overall, because people, instead of having to go outside of the community to buy whatever you buy for ballet, excuse me, I'm not an aficionado, tights, those shoes that people stand on, that
You
they
should
can
give Larry a
purchase
tour
it
when this is
at the
done.
school, similar to the karate studio that you buy your uniform there. And so that's the way I look at it, so.
The other comment I would make is that in the ordinance, the one that makes these determinations is typically the zoning administrator, unless there's a specifically listed alternative method for who makes that determination. And Larry is currently the zoning administrator.
Commissioner Green?
I just wanted to make sure that we're in compliance with the rule, because you look down the list, retail's not there. I appreciate you finding that definition, because the definition clearly does say incidental. It probably doesn't say what percentage of square footage, but I think we're talking about small enough here that I think you're right, Mr. Gardner, we're in compliance. I just wanted to make sure that we're in compliance, and that, it's one of those things that I don't want to be making stuff up as we go. I just want to make sure that we're there. So I appreciate the time on that.
And I appreciate that, because that is one role of the planning commission, to make sure that the administrative rules are being followed. And the 10% rule, generally that's a policy that's where we've established the incidental use, because it's not using much of the building. If it becomes half the building, then we'll have a different approach. So.
I want to see a warehouse that big at dancewear.
Commissioner Luthi?
I would like to make a motion, if that's okay with you.
Please do.
Okay, I move that the planning commission approve the preliminary site plan and conditional use permit for On Point School of Ballet located at 7504 Centerview Court in the professional office zone district, subject to conditions 1 and 2. And I'd like to add the third, that we revise the site plan as we discussed today. Thank you.
And Commissioner England?
Perfect, yeah, I second that.
Perfect. We have a motion by Commissioner Luthi and a second by Commissioner England. Any further discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you for continuing to do business in West Jordan. We'll go ahead and move on to our next item. which I think is what brings most of us here tonight. This is the Barber property, continued from July 16th, 2019, 7401 South, 5490 West. General plan land use map amendment for 10.02 acres from a very low density residential to low density residential, and a rezone from RR1D rural residential 1 acre minimum lots to zone to R112F single family residential 12,000 square foot minimum lots zone. Peterson Development LLC is our applicant. Ryan Peterson, are you here or someone here on your behalf? Come on forward.
Kaylin Nichols, 225 South, 200 East, and I'm representing Peterson tonight. Ryan is here as well to answer questions if needed. As you explained in the explanation, we are proposing to rezone 10 acres to R112F and change the land use to low-density residential. The proposed zone is the same zone as the two subdivisions to the south, Winter Circle and Bella Estates, with the same home size requirement. It is a lower density zone than the medium to the east side, but it is a little bit denser than the agricultural, the A1 and the half-acre zones to the north and the west. We feel it's a good zone to transition from the existing neighborhoods to the east, going into the west side to 5490 West. Our preliminary concept, I know this is a rezone, but our preliminary concept shows 17 lots right now, ranging from 13,474 square feet to 65. The higher range is because we are leaving one of those lots as an existing lot with an existing home on it. That is the bigger lot, as you see right there on the south side. Our proposed concept has us accessing our site from Bella Estates. There's a stub road existing in Bella Estates, and also due to the fire requirement of a 4-minute response time, we have been asked to access 5490 West. In our submittal of this concept and our rezone, it's triggered some discussion with the city staff, and I'm sure a lot of the neighbors about what 5490 West is going to be or how it's going to be acquired. We are in preliminary discussion about this, though it is on the transportation master plan as a 2 to 3 lane collector street. So the city is pushing for it to happen. They're just looking at the correct avenues to obtain the right of way, and discussions within departments are happening. That is why we had this item forwarded to this meeting, tabled, because of discussion with the staff and to see what we can do as far as how to move forward with 5490. And I'm sure staff can answer more questions about 5490 as we move forward with this, but if you have any questions for me.
Mr. Green.
Assuming that the general plan is correct, why do we need to change the general plan? Why do we need to change this from very low density to low density? I haven't seen in any, and I'm gonna preface this so that you can give, so you can get my perspective. I haven't seen anything in your presentation that tells me that the very low density is incorrect and that this has to be, for some magical reason, all of a sudden rezoned to, or changed on the future land use map to low density.
There's no magic in that other than the property owner is looking to sell his property and get his retirement from his land, and that's the nature of this animal. We could rezone it, or try to rezone it to a medium density as to the east, but we've chosen to do low density rather than a very low density.
Ryan Peterson. I could add a little to that. As Kalen expressed, the seller is interested in selling this as part of his retirement, and there's not near as much demand for lots in the size of very low density residential. So there's more interest and demand for The lot sizes we are proposing there are around third-acre lots, 14 to 16 to 18,000 square feet lots.
So can I follow that up? What's interesting to me is that I hear tonight that there's a demand for larger lots, yet I've heard from the same developer, I've heard from you guys, that there's no demand for larger lots, we have to go with smaller lots. So explain the conundrum or the dichotomy there.
For myself, I did not say there's no demand for the bigger lots. I'm saying there's more demand for a manageable third-acre lot. Those seem, the interest and demand for a large acre lot, like as you see in historical West Jordan, South Jordan, Riverton, has become less and less over time. So there's some demand. There's not very much, is our experience.
So let me ask you one more question. If we approve this, doesn't that cause the slippery slope that the rest of every one of these very low density areas to the north then becomes low density? And where does the low density to very low density change stop? I mean, if we have very low density and we want that, doesn't that just increase the downfall and eliminate the very low density in this city?
Well, I think, I can't speak for the whole city necessarily. I still think there's plenty of lots in West Jordan that have the larger lot sizes. Those will still be available and come for sale from time to time. I can't speak to what will happen to the west and north. I think if there is a sufficient demand where people are clamoring for the larger lots in the very low density residential range, then their interest will make their interest known, and developers will pursue developing lots at the larger size, I think. But I can't speak to the future because I have no crystal ball that way, but I see if that makes sense.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, we'll save you some time. I'm sure there will be some things. Did you have something else you wanted to add? No? Okay. Yeah, we'll save you some time. I'm sure we'll have some questions to follow up on. We'll bring this back over to staff. Mr. Page.
Thank you, Chair. In the general plan on page 19, we've received this advice to update the future land use map on an as-needed basis after positively finding that the location of the new or changed use is appropriate for the area and that no negative impact will be created to the neighborhood or the city because of the change. The city has changed the land use and zoning on properties to the south identical to this request. I think it can be reasonably argued or backed up by the general plan that this request is reasonable in the balance, that there's adequate services that the city can provide, that 5490 is master plan as a collector road. It would alleviate some of the congestion or pressure on 5600 West. So I think it's reasonably debatable that this could be a good thing for the city.
Any questions for staff? Okay. I'm sure we'll have some questions in a minute. We'll go ahead and open up the,
May I interrupt, Chair? I would like to have a few moments where we can read these without, is that possible that we can have just a few moments to read through these comments before we open it up for the public, just personally, because I haven't had a chance to read through these yet.
okay.
Yeah, that's appropriate under the circumstances, absolutely.
Okay. Just before we open up the public hearing, just so everybody knows, go ahead and read. We received three emails regarding this item, and we're just catching up. They were handed to us in our pre-meeting. We just haven't had a chance to read through them, so we're just catching up on what we've got. So just give us a minute.
And after you've reviewed them, at some point, you might want to just let the public here know kind of at least the general content of those comments.
Julie, do you need a copy of these, or do you have it? Okay.
Is that even an option? This guy wants a minimum of an acre, half acre, which is the same zone that they called it previously. But we can't dictate that it's a certain minimum size other than what the zone itself says, correct?
Correct, we'd have to basically do that in the zone.
And there is no half acre minimum zone. This is it.
How are we doing? Do we need any more time, or are we good? Okay, let me just, as we open up the public hearing, let me just really quickly preface these 3 emails, and then Milton Scow is the only one who's given me his notes, so we'll let you go first, and then after that, whoever needs to share some thoughts can come in behind him. Just kind of generally speaking, the concern that I read from all 3 of these is regarding animal rights in the area, the size of the lots. Mostly we're being requested to keep them at half-acre lots. That's kind of what I'm seeing as the general theme. Did I miss anything else important, guys? And then the private lane. Literally, those are the kind of, that's sufficient. These will be entered in the public record, so if someone wants to read them, they can pull up the minutes after they're published. So what we'll do, just to kind of give you some guidelines, you get 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. We're happy to hear all your comments. But just make sure you're mindful of the 3 minutes. If you're speaking on behalf of a group, we can give you 5 minutes, okay? Mr. Scow, you're up first.
My name is Milton Scow. I live at 5332 Laurel Hill Circle. My property is directly east of the proposed development there. It appears that there would be 2 lots directly west of my home. I live on Laurel Hill Circle there. My property is currently 1.1 acre. My neighbor next to me is an acre. My neighbor on the other side is an acre. I really think it's a big transition to go from 1 acre lots and right next to that go to, what are they, 3rd acre lots? I would prefer to see nothing less than half acre to keep it consistent with the neighborhood. The new homes that just went in there, I think a good portion of those are half acre or 1/3 of an acre. So I would like to see them minimum half an acre there. So that's all I have. Thank you.
My name is Spencer Burt, and I live on 5396 7530 in the new development that just went into the south. And I know that it is being proposed the same zoning, but as Milt had expressed, to the east you have 1 acre lots. Everything to the south of that is half acre lots. Like to see some consistency with that and growth, a better transition. I've lived in the neighborhood. I actually live just down the street. We moved across the street because we enjoyed the area, wanted to stay in West Jordan, and there are plenty of people who want half acre lots. In fact, of the 2 developments, all of those lots were sold before the development was completed, the half acre lots, so there is a demand for that, and there are plenty of other areas in West Jordan with 1/4 acre lots that are available and continue to get smaller. And my question is, why would we rezone this when there is not a second access point? I know the previous developers would have probably continued to develop if they would have been able to, but there's a restriction that you need another access point for that many homes, and there's not a defined access point there. I know they're proposing that road, but that road wouldn't alleviate any traffic because it wouldn't ever be a through road, at least not at this point either with this new development. And I've lived here. 5600 South is not congested. There's plenty of road there. That's all I have to say.
Hi, thank you for the time tonight. My name is Melissa Wood. I live at 5355 Legacy Hill Drive, and this property backs up right to my property also. I have to support what the neighbors are saying. I live on a half an acre property. All the people to the east of us live on acre properties. The people to the west of us are 5 acres and 10 acres behind us. Besides this development, the new development that's gone in are half an acre lots right there. We have animal rights. My fear is I would like to see the state as half acre lots to be consistent between our acreage and the new homes that have just gone in that are half an acre. But also putting in this many homes, putting in an access there, one, people will start complaining about our animals. It always happens, and I think it will continue to happen. We've had some issues there already where some people, they were going to try to develop this area once before into like apartments, and that was the same issue that came up because there is a smell that's associated with most of this agricultural space. Secondly, if there's a through road that goes out to 5490, I've lived in this area for 22 years, and the traffic will come right through that area to go out to 5490, which will impose a lot more traffic in front of my house and on my streets. I was reading through the report. I did see some differences there where it says it does not comply with the general land plan. Haven't had a chance to really review that, but I would like further discussion with that says that, you know, there's no reason to change the zoning. And I'm worried that it will be a significant amount of time before 5490 will ever open with all the private lane and the homes that are to the north of us. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Tiffany Ostrander. I live at 5327 West Jacob Hill Circle. We have just over an acre lot. We also back this property directly. I just have a couple of concerns on the plans that are the conception plans that are proposed. You're proposing your smallest lots next to our over acre lots. And the rest of the lots, the bigger lots, are at the front space, which there's not any land. Issues there if they want to make the smaller lots up there. I have horses in my backyard, and I know what comes with horses. Comes flies, comes smells, and neighbors that do not have agriculture lots don't typically like to live by people that have agriculture lots. I'm a little bit concerned. I have read over this packet in great detail. It does say that you do state that the southern adjacent lots that were built are compatible. Those lots don't back any of our agriculture lots. They never did to begin with. It also states that you understand that the property to the west, the north, and the east, it is not compatible with the plans. So it has been recognized that that's not necessarily the best use of that land. It also, in your same report, states that very low density is not usually compatible with low density because of the insects, odors, and noise between properties that maintain animals and fowl properties which do not. So I think that the city has recognized that those issues do come about with this kind of proposal. So at this point, I would recommend if you're going to develop this land, it is already zoned 1 acre lots. And I do know that you can retire quite nicely off of selling 1 acre lots. I don't know what kind of life he wants to leave, but I would recommend at this point we keep those 1 acre lots as horse property zoned to fit that area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Steve Shealy, and I live at 5302 West Jacob Hill Circle. Just a couple concerns. The animal rights rezoning, that's one thing that I think people appreciate in acre lots. And, just FYI, I had somebody yesterday offer me full price for my property, just as a flyby. But more importantly, we built out there because we like to live on an acre, all of us. And I think building 12,000 square foot minimum around us, especially to the to the west border, doesn't do well to my neighbors who have horses and the ones that do have animal rights. And I think the biggest concern I'd have in the changing of that zoning to non-animal rights on that property is that where does that leave us later on if, say for instance, I decide to have a horse? It's already been brought up that along with horses and animals come flies and insects and odor, and that never plays well against people that are up against that. If continued by that plat, my recommendation would be to move the acre properties to the back closest to what butts up against us, with a buffer between the two, if you choose to not allow animal rights back there, because they need that buffer for that reason. But I'm still staunchly, I look at it as a selling factor to my property, that I have animal rights, and I know there's people out there somewhere that enjoy to live on an acre. That's why I moved out there, that's why all my neighbors have moved out there, that we love being out away from each other, but still be good neighbors to one another. And that's why we moved there, and I've been there 15 years, and I've enjoyed all of that time because of the space I have between my neighbors. And thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shane Bowler. I live at 7402 South, 5490 West. And I am the A1 zone that you see on the plat. I may also be the one responsible for the smell that Melissa commented on, which I appreciate her positivity on that. My concern is about the second access. On the map that was showing, it shows that that land, which is my frontage, which is private land, would be dedicated to the city. I haven't had any discussion yet with Peterson Development about that. I think I could be an open-minded guy, but that is a concern for me as far as making that private road public, especially since I own half of it at that particular point. Also, the other question I would have about that is if the road did go public, what would it look like for the rest of the road that would remain private? That would be a concern of mine. I don't feel like there's been enough due diligence in that regard, and my suggestion would be that there should be more due diligence prior to a decision being made this evening. Thank you.
Hello, my name is J.R. Moore. I live at 5418 Tim Court. I would like to echo a couple of the comments that have been made. Number one, I feel like we are getting the cart before the horse a little bit, in the sense that we're showing a rezone of a property that is requiring 2 access points, but yet that second access point has not been solidified. So I would recommend that again, as Shane Bowler has recommended, that there is some more due diligence that occurs before a vote is taken. The second item that I would like to address is I am a real estate broker. I've been in the real estate business for over 20 years. And I would like to address the comment that there is no, or that there is the interest level of higher density lots. I personally, we moved into the Tim Court development, which is the new development, just 2 subdivisions to the south of this property. And I can guarantee you that if there were half-acre lots available, that's where I would have moved. And there is interest in those types of lots. The majority, or at least several of the houses in the developments to the south, are very expensive homes. They range in the range. Some of them are $700,000-800,000 homes, and I think that is evidence that this part of West Jordan is ready for a higher end development, and it's an opportunity for the city to increase the values of the land and increase the values of the homes in those areas by maintaining and continuing that trend. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Randy Bowler, 6663 South, 2200 West, West Jordan. Trying to decide whether I'm wearing my developer hat or my farm hat tonight. As you know, we've done a lot of development in the city and are sympathetic to new developments. In addition to the property that Shana spoke about that we own under the A1, we own a considerable amount of acreage further north on the private road. And so what happens here on this proposal, I think would have some impact on the properties that we have further north. I think it would be inappropriate tonight to make any decision on this application until there's been a proper resolve and resolution to the issues at hand, particularly the access issue. So my recommendation would be that the commission continue it, that due diligence be done, and see if there's a proper solution there. And again, I speak on behalf of not just the immediate area, but how that, if the road were dedicated for this development, how it would affect me as that road continues north and would continue to be a private road. Planning Commissioner is probably aware that along that private road, it's a private road because property ownership goes to the center of the road. And so we own to the center line. And so any public or any dedication that would be done on the private road would have to be in agreement and harmony with those property owners that own that stretch of road. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing no one else, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring this back to the Planning Commission.
Do you want to give the applicant a chance to respond to anything?
Yeah. Do you have any response to the conversation, the comments? No. I felt largely that we addressed most of that beforehand, so. Commissioner Green.
All right, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to tell you I'm fundamentally opposed to this project. A couple of reasons. One, I think we have to presume that the general land use map is correct. And the only compatible use, if we make this R112, as was pointed out by members of the public, is the property immediately to the south. It's not consistent with the east, it's not consistent with the west, it's not consistent with the north. And so therefore, it's not compatible. I don't see any reason to change this from very low density. At some point in time, and I'm going to tell you that tonight for me is at least one of those nights, we have to draw a line in the sand and say, if this city believes in very low density, the A1s, the RR1Ds, when do we stop encroaching on the A1s and the RR1Ds? There's a point where we have to stop. And I think this is one where we can easily say, no, this should stay RR1D, particularly when you've got as much A1 on the west, as much as we've got the farms, we've got the private road issue. I actually think, and I'm going to address a couple of things, finding A, I don't believe it's consistent with the general plan because I think this will have a negative effect on the city. And it's very rare that I argue against R112 homes in this city because most of the time I'm arguing against R18s. But in this area, I think R112s, although there's some to the south, by keeping going north, R112, it makes a negative effect on the city because we're not maintaining the very low density. I think with finding A, it's not consistent with the general plan, and particularly in finding E, I will tell you that I believe that it significantly alters the acceptable land use plans and patterns in the neighborhood. When I hear that people don't want to buy smaller lots, they don't want to buy big lots, I look to a neighbor to the south and I see Draper. And people buy acre lots all the time in Draper. Now, Draper's got higher income and a more prestigious name, but there's a point in time that people also want to maintain. I saw that on Facebook this last week, that there are a lot of people that want to try to maintain a small town feel in West Jordan, even though we're the 4th largest city in the state. The only way to do that is to maintain some of our agricultural and rural residential areas, and I think that this puts us on a slippery slope, and so I'm going to vote against this project.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner Thomas.
I kind of want to echo the same thing. It's like, you look at what impact it does on some of the other adjoining property to the west. In my own neighborhood, even though I live in a lot smaller lots and stuff, my backyard actually has horses in it. And that's one of the reasons why we purchased the property, is so that we could have that little rural area. And I think that's one of the things we're trying to preserve in our city, is some of the rural and agricultural areas that are getting gobbled up. And so I would be in negative support of this also.
Commissioner Hatch.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to ask the city on the access point. That seems to be quite an issue as far as who owns the road, how does this move through, what approval is needed prior to making that assumption. Those are my questions.
So 5490 has been on the transportation master plan for years and years. It was originally platted in the county as a way to develop this 5-acre lot subdivision. So it is a private road. The lots go right to the center of the street, and there's an access easement along there. When Winter Circle and Bella Estates was constructed, they were right at the 4-minute response time, and so that's the reason it did not require a access on 5490 South. However, the fire department, and we have an ordinance to back this up, is holding firm on the 4-minute access, emergency access to this new subdivision. The property owner was told at the time that 5490 would eventually have to be constructed as a public street for that access purposes. Now, where we're at right now, we're in preliminary discussions, but we have told for this project to go forward that 5490 would become a public street. Now, there is a sewer project or water project going from the east, as you can see on the roundabout with the blue extension. They will go down there, and so anything in blue will be constructed and dedicated to the city as a public street as part of that water line construction coming from the tank up where the Copper M development is going to go in. The yellow on this map, when Randy Bowler did those two developments, that was deferred, designed, and but dedicated to the city as a public street. You can see that goes to the center line of this 60-foot collector street. The red, as Mr. Bowler stated, is along private property. The city would have to take steps to acquire that, or the developer would. And then, of course, the entire frontage along the Barber Estates, plus on the other side of the road, we would have to work with to try to acquire that. Now, the council, it was ago, Scott, a year ago, tasked the city staff with making 5490 a public street, because it has been on the master plan for a long time, and so there has been work done on that, and so what I'll say in a nutshell is that this development, or no more development, will occur on 5490 without 5490 becoming a public street. There would be no more development in that area because it would be in violation of safety rules. And so, you know, that's just the way it is, that for any more development to occur, I don't care if it's 1 acre lot, 2 acre lots, 8,000 square feet, there's not going to be any more development without 5490 occurring as a public street. So,
My question is then, should that discussion happen prior to this concept plan and the process that we're going through to determine what size lots these should be? Should we see if the road can become a public street, or if we can work with the owners to make it a public street prior to this?
well, I don't have any heartburn with the planning commission recommending to the city council one way or the other, whether the street is improved or not. The council will ultimately make that decision. So I don't see any reason to hold this up at the planning commission level for this street issue. We're continuing talks with the developer, and the only way they'll be able to develop a subdivision could get approved if there's that second point of access. There's no other development will occur. Now, what the finding says is there adequate public utilities and public services in the area. Water and sewer, yes, that can be answered. Storm drain is always on its own, but that'll all go through the Bella Estates project. The only outlier is the street, which we're working on at this time. Or what you're saying is that you want the public street built before the zone is changed?
No, my question is, shouldn't it be approved? Shouldn't the
uh,
people who own the street approve the development or approve the access?
So it's been on the master plan. The city's discussed this over and over with people down there. Now, at one point, the city has to make that decision if they're going to pull the trigger and make this a public street. They do have a document that gives the city that right by 2022 to do that. Now, I'm not going to discuss that any further because that's more of a legal term or a capital projects term. But if we're just solely waiting for the road to be built before we rezone property, one of the issues is that 90% of our roads in West Jordan are built by developers.
Let me clarify, I'm not asking the road to be built. I'm asking for the approval from the landowners for the road prior to
And what I'm saying is I don't think that's within the planning commission's lane of that should be a city council decision. You're purely recommending on the land use. It's just a recommendation. The council can get into that discussion because they're the ones that ultimately make the decision. Okay, and so I'll just leave it at that.
And if I could add, Larry's absolutely correct. If I can add, the council's already indirectly weighed in on this issue by adopting certain ordinances, response times. And so, to Larry's point, whether this develops out as 1 acre lots or 12,000 square foot lots, it's not going to happen. The subdivision would have to come back in a public hearing again, and we wouldn't actually, it would violate ordinance, and we could not recommend approval for it.
Commissioner Green.
To that point, and I agree exactly what you're saying, is that it doesn't matter what size the lot is, we're not gonna build until the road, you gotta build the road to get to the neighborhood. The problem that I have is that if we make a favorable recommendation, we've changed the land use map and the zoning, and normally I will just tell you in this city, we very rarely go back to the way it was. And so if we make a decision that says, let's zone this as smaller lots, it doesn't matter whether that's a year from now or 3 years from now, we're gonna be stuck with those smaller lots. And so, I mean, I agree that we need to build the road, but I actually agree with one of the neighbors. I think we're putting the cart before the horse. We're deciding the size of the lot, hoping we can build a road, where we probably ought to build the road and then really decide what the size of the lot ought to be. And most of the neighbors have said the R112 doesn't fit. And I think to me, that's enough substantial evidence to say, no, it ought to be at least half acre. And so I'm not comfortable setting a smaller lot size, anticipating that because that will work. I think we leave things status quo until we can figure this out. That's just me.
So can I interject one thing that'll probably be unpopular with the crowd, but the planning commission, you make your decision based upon the criteria and the ordinance, not what the neighbors want. Now that's more for the city council gets into that because they can make a decision based upon clamor, but I'm not comfortable with the planning commission certainly making any kind of decision saying because the neighbors don't want it. And so you need to make it based on the criteria. What you set up until that point, I agree with. The one thing that the neighbors have said, well, we have animals, we have flies and odors. Well, they have the right to keep animals, but they also have the responsibility to control the flies and the odors. That's a difficult thing to do, but we're not going to take anyone's animal rights away because the property is rezoned to without animal rights. Someone that would buy that, if they look, I'm buying this lot, oh, there's a horse there. I guess that's going to be my closest neighbor because he's going to be right at my fence all the time. So you will get complaints, but you always get complaints. So.
Well, and it's not that I'm saying that the neighbors don't like it. So let me just clarify. The reason we have a public hearing is to gather evidence. And the evidence that I'm hearing tonight that was a consistent theme is that the land use with an R112 is incompatible with the current land uses. To me, that's a finding of fact. And that's based on multiple testimony. We have the issues with the road, and so it's not that so I'll clarify, it's not having to do with the neighbors don't like it. It's the fact that the neighbors have provided evidence that provides me with enough evidence to say there's a finding of fact that this makes it, that it significantly alters the land use patterns, that it affects the land, and that it makes a negative effect on West Jordan City.
I think I'm going to just jump in here really quickly. So I think my history will show that I'm a little bit more pro-development side than maybe some of my fellow commissioners are. However, as I'm looking at this thing, and I agree with most of what's been said here, I'm just going to add, I think that finding D also makes this challenging for me. I think it was very clearly stated that this guy wants to sell to get his retirement. We are selling this and making lots in his size that he wants so that he can retire. It seems to me that we're benefiting one person or one specific entity. I think that our conversation up here has gone such that we should be holding off on making a decision on this. And I know that our decision that we recommend is only a recommendation, but I feel like that we should be recommending a negative recommendation, making our negative recommendation on tonight. That's how I feel about this, Commissioner Green.
With that, can I make a motion?
Please do.
Let me interrupt. If you're going to make a negative recommendation, make sure you have findings with it. Positive, you don't need it, but as many of the findings as you can to send on to the city council.
Yeah.
Hit your button.
I've got 3. I've got them right now.
Okay. Do you want to make the motion then?
Sure.
Commissioner England.
Make sure I'm on the right one. Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission forward a negative recommendation to the City Council to rezone 10.02 acres from RR1D, rural residential 40,000 square foot minimum lot area, to R112F residential single family 12,000 square foot minimum lot area at 7401 South, 5490 West, based upon finding A, don't believe it's consistent with the general plan. Finding E, I believe it will adversely impact the neighborhood and surrounding community. Finding D, I believe this benefits one individual particular person.
We have a motion from Commissioner England. Mr. Murray?
Yes, so the motion was with regards to the rezone, not the general land use map, right? And you're referring to findings, which are general land use map, as opposed to criteria, so, which are the zoning map.
All right, let's scrap that motion and do that again.
Thanks. Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission forward a negative recommendation to the City Council to amend the general plan future land use map for 10.02 acres from very low density residential to low density residential on property located at 7401 South, 5490 West, based upon finding A, not being consistent with the general plan, finding D, believe this benefits a particular person, and finding E, I believe this would adversely impact the neighborhood and community.
We good now, Mr. Murray?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Commissioner Hatch?
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner England and a second by Commissioner Hatch. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Yeah, motion carries unanimously. You want to take a stab at the second one there?
Here, I can do that one because I've got the criteria written down, I believe.
Go for it.
Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received tonight, I move that the Planning Commission forward a negative recommendation to the City Council to rezone 10.02 acres from RR1D rural residential to R1-12F at 7401 South, 5490 West. Based on criteria number 1, not consistent with the general plan. Number 2, not consistent with the neighborhood. Criteria 3, it doesn't meet the health, safety, and welfare of the area. And criteria 4, public services, including fire protection, is not available.
Commissioner Hatch?
I'll second that as well.
Thank you. We have a recommendation, or a motion rather, from Commissioner Green and a second by Commissioner Hatch. Any discussion to the motion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're unanimous again. And that brings us to our final item. Let me get back to our agenda here. This is for the appliance stop. It's 9375 South Redwood Road. Conditional use permit for secondhand store in a CG zone. Jason Johnson is the applicant. The floor is yours, sir. Hey, thanks for coming, everybody. If you just move on out before you have the conversations so we can continue, that'd be great. Thank you. And don't close the doors. All right, the podium is yours, sir.
Thank you. My name is Jason Johnson. This is my wife, Sonny Johnson, and we live at 5623 West Morning Light Drive. We are the owners of the appliance stop, 9375 South Redwood Road in West Jordan. And we are here to discuss the conditional use permit for a secondhand appliance store at that location. I have actually leased that same location from the property owner for the last 2 years. I retired from law enforcement, and my wife is a director of nursing up in Daybreak, thus her dress code tonight. I grabbed her on the way over here, but anyway, we've been there for a couple years, and we've just decided to change gears a little bit, and had already done a little bit of research. There's not any type store like this anywhere on the south end of the valley, so we think it would be a great option for the residents out there. I also spoke to the pawn shop because I wanted to make sure I was a good neighbor and that it wouldn't interfere with anything he was doing, and he said that he thinks it would benefit his business because he doesn't do appliances, and it would bring more people into that area. And I guess when we've looked ourselves at purchasing appliances for our home, I think everyone would agree, you look at a new fridge nowadays and it's $2,100 a starting. And generally most of these large appliances have a life, some of them of up to 2 decades. although people tend to get rid of those a lot sooner, whether they're moving or they've decided that the trend is now stainless steel, and so they're gonna get rid of appliances. And so we found a niche where we think we can pick up some of these high-end, still in good shape appliances and get those out to our community. I think that's about all there is to it. So we're open for any questions.
Perfect. Any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Green.
I'll just ask one. You have no problem with the conditions of approval that the city has listed in the staff report?
No, I don't. I went through that pretty thoroughly, and the only things that stand out was the striping. We knew we needed to redo that, but our property owner's retired, lives within about a block of there, and he's already on top of that. So we've almost got it completely striped. We were just making sure that we had the ADA right. And then as far as the storage goes, it wouldn't make sense for us to store appliances outdoor. They would easily be ruined, and so we have plenty of space inside to keep things stored. And I understand, based on my background, the importance of the image and that for the area. And I can just tell you, I've been there for a couple of years, and I take care of the property, and we want to have an inviting storefront there. And hopefully the fitness arena has been pretty difficult, and so our goal is to get her retired too, and to make this business a go together, and we think we can do that at that location. We think it'd be a great spot for this. So
Thank you. Okay, well, doesn't look like there's anybody here from the public, but just in case, we'll go ahead and let you have some time after. Mr. Forsyth, this one's yours.
Yes, thank you, Chairman.
You can go ahead and have a seat. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the applicant covered a lot of the most of my points. The only thing I would really add is the location's located in a CG zone, which is a neighborhood commercial. So retail is a pretty prevalent and appropriate use in that zone, and I think a secondhand store would fit with that appropriateness. As you can kind of see here on the map, there's some residential around this area, but a lot of it's pretty buffered, especially with that canal bisecting that residential area from the proposed location. Other than that, we've covered the parking, we've covered the outdoor storage. Just to reiterate, outdoor storage is prohibited within that CG zone, so but it sounds like the applicant understands that and has agreed to those terms. Other than that, the only thing I would add is the unloading space in the back. It's a little small, but it should be able to fit a couple of small delivery vehicles, and we just ask that any delivery just be done back there to make sure the parking spaces are open in the front and access is provided. Other than that, staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing.
You don't want to talk tonight? Sure?
Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring this back to the Planning Commission for further discussion or a motion. Commissioner England.
Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report, upon the evidence and explanations.
Oh, hey, hold on. We got a question.
We got a question?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let's hold off on that. Commissioner Hatch.
My question is repair of the appliances. I should have asked you when you were up there, and I apologize. It just hit me after the fact. Will there be any repair or anything on site?
Repairs that we do, most of the items that we receive, probably about 80% and above. Our one major distributor works with one of the largest companies in the state for doing tear outs and remodels, and so he's already, I guess, a litmus test. He's run a similar business to this further south, and the track record is over 80% of the appliances work, and the ones that don't are going to go salvage. So we've already made arrangements for recycle efforts, but we are going to try to repair if it's a minor repair, things that we can do inside, but nothing that would be dangerous, hazardous, noisy, cause any issues that way. We're talking about maybe changing a fan on you know, on one of the appliances or something like that that can easily be done in our back area. We have plenty of room to do that, so.
So no changing of compressors or anything like that?
No,
Okay.
no. Matter of fact, as far as the fridges go, we do take some of those in, but we're always making sure that those are tested before they come in. And if that's something that's the case, it's going to go out to the landfill or to the recycle place. And there's actually a charge to take those because of that. And so probably the majority of our appliances are going to be the dishwashers, the stove tops, microwaves, washers, dryers, those type of things. So.
Commissioner Thomas.
Just one quick question. So you said you had an agreement with somebody to take all of the appliances, so you will not be storing any of the basically garbage and
No, I understand where you're going. I think just to go ahead when your line of thought is, if we get to that point, we'll have a distribution place where everything goes first and comes to us. But we can basically we don't take everything from him. We take what we can handle. So we'll fill the storefront, we'll fill our storage area, and as we liquidate those products, we'll take more things in. And so we just think it's a great storefront location. But if we ever got to the point where we wanted to maybe add another location somewhere else, or the volume was needed for us to make an adjustment, we'd probably find a warehouse or a different storage facility to take everything in, check it, salvage it, and then bring it to where we're at. So we're going to be I'm going to be the sole owner operator, so it's going to be very small scale initially. Even our store hours, we've through our application process, we have a regular business hour time frame, but realistically, it's probably going to be a lot of by appointment and shorter hours, daytime hours for a while, until we can see if we can get it off the ground. So.
Thank you. Any other questions? Back to you, sir.
You got it. All right, based on the information and findings set forth in this staff report, upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit for the appliance stop located at 9375 South Redwood Road in a CG zone with the conditions of approval listed on page 2 of this report.
And Commissioner Luthi.
A second.
We have a motion from Commissioner England, a second by Commissioner Luthi. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are unanimous. Thanks for doing business.
Move to adjourn.
Hey, we are adjourned.